test his nuclear missiles and nuclear weapons. So economy, inflation, border security, foreign policy. Trump it's not even close. It's double digits. If you look at crime, Kamala's the defund the police queen. When all that riots was breaking out in your city, she was encouraging BLM and Antifa to riot, helping to raise money to bail them out so they go out and do it again. And
worked with Walz to do it, who is now her VP candidate. And Walz is the most extreme governor in the country, as far as I'm concerned, because I
want to drill down on that with you. I want to really talk about that choice. But Trump has the endorsement of every law enforcement officer, organization in the country. So you got economy and inflation, border.
In 2023, according to MIT Living Wage Calculator, folks in major cities needed around $68,499 just to make ends meet comfortably. But guess what happened next? In just 1 year, that number shot up a whopping 40% to $96,500. Can you believe how much inflation has affected us? That's the kind of inflation that keeps us up at night. Now, I don't know about you, but I sure can't afford to keep pace with that kind of skyrocketing cost of living. It's downright scary. But you know what's even scarier? Not doing anything about it. That's why I've been talking to folks over at Miles Franklin. They're all about helping regular people like you and me protect our hard-earned savings. With gold and silver, you can lock in the value of your money and shield yourself from the ups and downs of the economy. So if you are like me and want to keep your nest eggs safe and sound, reach out to Miles Franklin at info@milesfranklin.com. Just mention my name, Sarah sent me, and they'll take care of you like family, because it's just how we do things here in Middle America. Don't wait until it's too late. Protect your future today.
Welcome to Business Game Changers. I'm Sarah Westall. I have Peter Navarro coming to the program. He's somebody that I've been wanting to talk to. He was the business advisor for Trump during his administration, and they threw him in jail because he wouldn't talk about January 6th. And so we have a conversation about that. And I also, my show, for those that don't know, I rank in 4 dozen countries in business news, because I talk a lot about geopolitical issues and business news, the edge of business, society, and change. And so it's really popular in those categories. In fact, if you're not subscribed, subscribe now. Push the button, whatever platform you're on, please subscribe. But as such, these are the kind of conversations I want to have. I really wanted to talk to Peter Navarro and understand where he was at on the BRICS, on all these bigger picture issues. These are the issues we should be talking about. You never hear it in the media, the issues that are the most important to our country. I talk about the petrodollar with him. I talk about these issues and I ask him some questions. I ask some questions that are meaningful to you and to me, and regardless of where your politics are at, you should be listening and thinking about these questions and making up your own mind about what's important based on who you think can navigate us out of these big issues that are going to affect you and your children for generations. That's why I want to talk to people, and I talk about these things. This is really a multi-generational issue, depending on where the United States lands and where this great reset lands. And there won't be a lot of places to move to hide away, because other countries will be locked into this technocratic nightmare system that they want to put in place, just like us. So these are the conversations that I wanted to have. Okay, before I get into that, I want to remind you about Masterpiece. We know that we are being bombarded with toxins. It's coming from everywhere. And in fact, why I like Masterpiece is because they have a zeolite that is really small. They figured out how to make it really small so without crushing it, because other places crush theirs. And it has marine plasma in it. So the zeolite takes out the toxin and replaces it with marine plasma, which is the most highly nutritious element out there. So you get a really good nutrition, plus it's detoxing. And they're the only ones that are doing trials to prove that it works. And I love that. That gives them credibility to me that they're proving and saying, I stand behind my product because it's that important to the world that this works. And it's something you take every day, and it's gentle. And it is in trial results, it's showing that it's getting on aluminum, graphene oxide, microplastics. They have a new trial that's going, and the base blood line shows that it's a 30% increase right now of toxins in the base blood. That means the toxic elements it's increasing. I don't know. My God, what are they doing? And so we have to be aware of that, and we need to get it out of our system. And so it's only $52.99 for a 2-month supply. Some people are saying it's a month and a half, depending on how much you use. But it's only $52.99. You can go to sarahwestall.com under shop and get yours today. I buy for my entire family. I make sure everybody's on it. I use it personally too. So I highly recommend that you do it as well. sarahwestall.com under shop. Okay, let's get into my good conversation. I lose my camera. I got to warn you, I lose my camera during this, but who cares that I lose my camera? We still continue on this. And he was only supposed to give me 20 minutes. I negotiated. I'm like, I'm not going to do a 20-minute. I want a half an hour. They gave me a half an hour. And then we had problems for 10 minutes. And so he gave me an extra 10 minutes so I could get the full half an hour. So he gave me 40 minutes, really. But this is a decent conversation with him, and I really appreciate it. We actually went too long and he had to go. And so we're going to have another conversation later. So let's get into my conversation with Peter Navarro. Hi, Peter. Welcome to the program.
I'm so pleased to be here.
I am excited that you're here. I have a lot of questions for you. And I got to start off with the basic ones because people want to know, why did you decide not to speak in Congress?
Okay, the context here, let's go in a time machine back to the second term of George Washington, our first president. George Washington went before the House of Representatives regarding something called the Jay Treaty, which he had signed, and made it clear that he, that is the president, could not order congressmen to come to the White House, but Congress couldn't order the president to go and testify or give information, whatever, to Congress. That established what's called the doctrine of executive privilege. Over the many, many decades and centuries of this country, the Supreme Court has recognized executive privilege as a critical element of presidential decision-making. The two key words are candor and confidentiality. Unless a president and his advisors have executive privilege, they cannot have candor and confidentiality in their communications within the White House, and therefore presidential decision-making will be far less effective. So that's two things there for the Constitution. One is the doctrine of executive privilege, and the other is the constitutional separation of powers. Congress can't tell the executive branch what to do, and vice versa.
Why do you think
fast forward now to my situation. I'm a senior presidential advisor. President Trump, I get a subpoena from the J6 committee. President Trump invokes executive privilege. According to long-standing Department of Justice policy, it's my duty to refuse to testify unless the President Trump, waives the privilege. So what I said at the time I got the subpoena is simply, President Trump has invoked the privilege, not mine to waive by law, true. If you want me to appear, I'd be happy to, but you got to clear it with the president first. So Congress never went to the president to ask for a waiver of the privilege. I refused to go because it was my duty to my oath of office and the Constitution of my country. And the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, prosecuted me for a crime nobody had ever been charged with before in my position. And it was contrary to the DOJ's policy. So that I stood up on principle. I've said this before, I'll say it again. I would rather stand up for the Constitution and go to prison than get on my knees before them and basically do something dishonorable. So that's what that was.
Why do you think they ignored it? Why did they ignore something as important as this?
Why did who ignore what?
Why did Congress and Garland and all those people just say, I don't care about the Constitution, presidential privilege doesn't matter, and we're just going to do this anyways?
Because the Democrats have weaponized the justice system. I mean, I'm not the only one they did this to. Steve Bannon's in prison now. Donald Trump's facing 700 years in prison if he loses the election. It was wrong. I don't know if you saw my appearance at the Republican National Convention, but I said I went to prison so you won't have to. And what I meant by that is my case demonstrates that if the Democrats get control of all three branches of government, then they will control us. They'll put us in prison. They'll control us. And then that's what happened. And I went through the list of how the Democrat House held me in contempt. A Democrat attorney general prosecuted me, and a Democrat appointed judge stripped me of all my defenses and sent me to a Democrat jury. And then even after I was convicted, what should have happened is I should have been allowed to appeal to the Supreme Court and stay out of prison because of the important constitutional. They didn't even do that. They threw me in jail. So why did they do that? Because they can. And that's what this is election about. And I do want to say at this point is like, that's in my rearview mirror now. What I'm looking at is this election. I've got a book that I want to put on the table here. It's the New MAGA Deal. The subtitle is The Unofficial Deplorables Guide to the Trump 2024 Platform. And my view of the election landscape is certainly this weaponization of the justice system has been an important issue with the voters. I think Democrats, independents, and Republicans are all appalled by what has happened to folks like me, Bannon, and Trump. Sure, of course, the hardcore radical Dems, they'll put them in jail, right? But I think most Americans see this as very unjust. But the big issues that I cover in the New MAGA Deal and the pollsters say that are going to move voters, if you just go from the top, it's the mantra of Bill Clinton. It's the economy stupid, updated to it's the Trump policy agenda stupid. And if you look at the Trump policy agenda, 4 years of Trump, you were safe, secure, and prosperous. Today, starting at the top of what pollsters care about, it's a horse race between inflation and the border. Okay, 1 week it's inflation first, border second, vice versa. So if you look at inflation, the economy, and now the crashing stock market, Kamala's crash, as I like to call it, Trump leads by double digits. If you look at the border crisis, Kamala owns that one as well because she was supposed to be the border czar, rejected the command of her commander-in-chief, the president, Joe Biden, and we've had probably over 10 million illegal, illiterate aliens come in, murderers, rapists, drug traffickers, drug cartels, communist Chinese spies, Islamic terrorists, and interestingly enough, for the Democrat base, a flood of illiterate illegals into the labor force to drive down the wages of who? The key constituency of Democrats, black, brown, and blue-collar Americans. So Trump wins on the economy, on the border. Then there's foreign policy. I can't think of a single presidential candidate of a major party who has less foreign policy experience than Kamala Harris. In Trump's America, think about this. In Trump's America, communist China, imperial Russia, the rocket man in North Korea, and the mullahs of Iran left us and the rest of the world alone. We had peace. It was quiet. Right now, under Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, who the world does not fear or respect, unlike Trump, we've got war in Gaza with a possible Iranian breakout, which could lead literally to a world war. We've got Russia and Ukraine, wouldn't have dared to do that with Trump. We've got communist China threatening Taiwan, and the rocket man has started to do what he stopped doing during Trump, test his nuclear missiles and nuclear weapons. So economy, inflation, border security, foreign policy. Trump just, I mean, it's not even close. It's double digits. If you look at crime, Kamala's the defund the police queen. When all that riots was breaking out in your city, she was encouraging BLM and Antifa to riot, helping to raise money to bail them out so they go out and do it again. And
worked with Walz to do it, who is now her VP candidate. And Walz is the most extreme governor in the country, as far as I'm concerned, because I
want to drill down on that with you. I want to really talk about that choice. But Trump has the endorsement of every law enforcement officer, organization in the country. So you got economy and inflation, border, foreign policy, crime. You got the weaponization of the justice system, Trump leads. And of course, on all the woke stuff. I mean, look, there's a line in the that I wanted to give in the speech at the RNC, but didn't have time. They gave me a generous amount of time. I had to cut that one. But it was, if we're going to win the election, we have to unify not just the Republican Party, but the country. So I'm reaching out. Check this list, a threesome here. Every Democrat disengaged from, disenfranchised by, or disgusted with the radical left turn that the Democratic elites have taken the Democrat Party. And on the woke stuff, it's all three of those: disengaged, disenfranchised, disgust. I mean, that scene of the man in Paris knocking, hitting, just beating the heck out of
terrible.
But it's the norm. Genital mutilization, grooming of our kids in K through 12. This is her. And the problem we face, let's be honest, is that we're not running against Kamala Harris. We're running against CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, NBC, PBS, the New York Times, and the Washington Post. That's Donald Trump's opponent. And they're burying everything. They're just burying everything. They try to bury the borders. They scrub the border czar stuff from that. It's like suddenly she's the second coming of Winston Churchill. So
the Washington Post actually did an essay about her voice being like music, 128 notes per minute, like the best songs of Rihanna. I'm not kidding you.
No, this is what we're up against. It's just, it is what it is. So we've got to do our job, which is the Trump policy agenda stupid. And that's where the book, The New MAGA Deal, comes in. You can get this book at newmagadeal.com, newmagadeal.com. It's Don Jr.'s publishing site. It's also on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. And what I'm trying to do with that book, it's got 100 actions in 100 days on policy by Donald Trump if he wins first day in office. You've got 37 chapters, many of them penned by people who were with Trump in the first term. And we've got to look, Kamala's an easy target, with her cackle and all the personal stuff and things like that. But look, 95% of the voters already have their mind made up. What we need is the swing voters in the swing states. A lot of them are women, and we Republicans can't turn women off by making personal attacks on Kamala Harris. There's no need to do that. She falls on policy. All you have to do is show her clips on policy. So the New MAGA Deal, newmagadeal.com, that's kind of what my focus is. Fresh out of prison. But as I said, that's in the rearview mirror. We got an election to win. We lose this election, we lose this country.
Can I ask you a couple questions, some more deeper questions about what's going on for my audience, because they're a little more astute? We have the BRICS coming, barreling down, right? Where the majority of the world, these countries are all falling in line with the BRICS nations. Yeah. What would Trump do, and how would he work with the BRICS to, I mean, you can't just stronghold everybody, strong arm, and turn it into this world war. How would we work with that?
Well, let's disaggregate. You got Brazil, Russia, India, and China. That's the original BRICS.
Mm-hmm.
If you are like so many others, you need more energy to get through the day. What you need is the boundless energy of MitoCure RX, the revolutionary solution from Wizard Labs. Many of you have heard of methylene blue, which only offers a temporary boost. MitoCure RX takes methylene blue a step further. By integrating urethane A and other potent ingredients, it not only elevates energy instantly, but also fosters long-term cellular vitality and mitochondrial turnover. Say goodbye to fleeting fixes and hello to sustained vigor. Your energy and mitochondria will thank you. Embrace vitality today at sarahwestall.com under shop or with the link below.
And what they've done is they've steadily added kind of people in their universe. The problem with Brazil now is they they did what the Democrats are trying to do to Donald Trump. They put the conservative opposition leader in a situation where legally he can't even run for president again. It's insane. So they're running a left wing kind of government, and it's going to be, that one's difficult. Russia, I think Russia's a chess player. If they understand that Donald Trump, I mean, it's a totally different dynamic between Harris and Putin and Trump and Putin. You have to, yeah, people will say, oh, Trump's too friendly with Putin, this, that, and the other thing. No. You just have to look at what the result was of that relationship. 4 years, Russia didn't invade anybody. So that one's going to be just a better relationship where
Diplomacy is not a problem, right? I mean, hello, but keep going.
Yeah. And then India, look, India is historically played the non-alignment game going back to the Soviet Union days and things like that. But China's a natural enemy of them. So they're more inclined to work with us. Modi and Trump have a very good relationship. And the Indian economy depends heavily on the U.S. economy. So I think that, again, it's this foreign policy experience and these personal relationships are what deal things. In communist China, look, we just have to raise tariffs and raise our defenses against them. They're out to kill us. They're out to take our land, our businesses, our intellectual property, and everything, and sink our aircraft carriers in the Taiwan Strait, take Taiwan, and rule the world. I mean, come on. If you don't see that, then you're not looking. So that one's good. You know, it's all tough. But the important thing to understand is that during Trump's first term, they left us alone. During Biden's Harris first term, I mean, Harris, I mean, she didn't meet the leaders. She didn't do any of the foreign policies. She doesn't know how to do that. Now they're thrusting her into a situation where she's developed no relationships with any world leaders except Netanyahu. And with Netanyahu, she basically spit on the guy.
Well, so, I think she doesn't. People don't think she has the economic chops to make this work. A few people probably do, and so people are concerned about that. But we also have the Federal Reserve. Trump put the Treasury Department into the Fed, and people were thinking that would really help with. He had some goal with doing something with our national debt. Why did he do that? And where is that at right now?
Understanding to put the Treasury into the Fed.
There was information that he put the Treasury in. Was that false information? Do you know?
No, the Fed's independent, and
okay, so none of that happened.
Was putting Jay Powell in as chairman. That was a fundamental error, and it was the fault of Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin at the time. He basically that was Steve Mnuchin's choice. Jay Powell thinking that he could control. I mean, it was just a gross miscalculation by Mnuchin. But what else is new with Mnuchin? I mean, he got Jay Powell in there thinking he could control Powell, and then Powell went off and raised rates too high during the Trump administration. inflation, choked off growth that we could have had without inflation. And then he gets in with Biden Harris. In order to keep his job, he doesn't raise rates fast enough. And that unleashes the runaway inflation we have. That genie's out of the bottle.
Yep.
Okay. So, I mean, the thing with the Fed, you've got to get their balance sheet in order, but it's very difficult. I mean, we're grossly overextended fiscally and monetarily in terms of policy, and it's going to take smart people with a deft hand doing it. And who are you going to bet on? Trump and his folks, or Kamala Harris and the people who created the problem to begin with?
Well, you need smarter people to be able to deal with it. That's for sure. Now let's look at Saudi Arabia and the petrodollar. We have Saudi Arabia wanting to join the BRICS. And back just in a year ago, in 2023, 100% of the oil was done in US dollars. Now it's 80%. So they took over 20% now is done in other currencies. How would that be addressed? Or is it? I mean, it's just the world is now changing.
Again, this is relationships. Donald Trump had very good relations with Saudi Arabia. We had, I helped with this at the State Department when I was in the White House. We had a great arms transfer deal with them. So they would buy our weapons so we wouldn't have to send our soldiers over to guard them. We were able to help keep oil prices down with one call from Donald Trump to the king. And what Biden and Harris have done, and again, Biden did it with Harris kind of, I don't know what she was doing in the VP's office, but she wasn't doing foreign policy. It was very hostile to Saudi Arabia. Same with Obama. So Saudi Arabia said, look, if we can't count on the United States, then we're going to go off and cozy up to China and Russia. Biden forced them into it. So you ask, how do you fix that? Well, Trump back in, relations get better. I think the best thing with Saudi Arabia is drill, baby, drill. And we get back to energy independence. We don't need the Saudis. If they want to play the petrodollar game, okay, but that's going to have consequences with respect to other ways we interact with you. It's
important, though. I mean, it's serious. Chess. Go ahead.
Trump plays three-dimensional chess in foreign policy. You don't even understand what's happening 6 months later, and you see the result, right? Biden and Harris are playing checkers in a chess world. And again, Harris, the American people on foreign policy alone, how can you put her in charge of anything? And you say, well, she'll have professionals to help her. Well, look what the professionals have done. They screwed up the Afghanistan withdrawal. Putin waltzes into Ukraine. We're spending tens of billions of dollars we don't have on Ukraine instead of Minneapolis. And it's like your head explodes as to how anybody would vote for that ticket. I mean, it's just.
Well, I don't think they have the well, and I think these conversations need to be had so they can see who even understands this stuff. If you listen to their top advisors, they don't even comprehend it. You see little videos of them, and it's embarrassingly low IQ when it comes to this area. But I got to ask you about the central bankers. Starting in 2018, they started talking in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, about going around governments and starting to, based on carbon credits, define budgets for governments at the central banking level. And now they're talking CBDCs as well. What do you think of those two topics, and how does that tie into our sovereignty?
Again, this is two different philosophies, right? Trump is an economic nationalist populist. And we do bilateral deals. We don't do multilateral deals. We don't engage in these globalized kind of agreements to do anything, right? And so that's not going to happen on Trump's watch. It just won't. But there's a lot of mischief out there. Europe has become, one world Europe with all of that. And I mean, look at what's happened to Europe. They have no borders now. They have a border crisis every bit as bad as ours, and ours is historically bad. So again, it gets down to leadership. I've just got to go back to the New MAGA Deal book, newmagadeal.com. It's the book I wrote with the help of 10 former Trump officials. It's the Trump policy agenda stupid. That's what we got to run on. And these kind of topics are covered in the book. And these are easy to read chapters. Each chapter is written like an op-ed. It's 800 to 900 words. You get it? Boom, I got it. The other thing the New MAGA deal does, which I think is important, is it dispels the myth created by the Democrats that somehow MAGA is a four-letter word. That just annoys the hell out of me. All MAGA is, dating back to 2016 when the acronym was coined, is a strong manufacturing base here in the U.S. through fair trade and buy American. It's a secure border to protect workers and the nation from national security threats. And it's an end to endless war, so young men and women don't get sent off as cannon fodder to lose their limbs or lives.
That's right.
That's MAGA. That's it.
Well, let me ask you one last.
We got a fight on our hands.
Well, let me ask you one last question. People are really concerned about farming because one of the things that they're going after because of the climate issues is that farming itself is an issue. And there's actually countries signing up, trying to ban farming. It's stupid stuff like that. And our farmers are under attack. I've heard farmer after farmer saying that they're struggling with these policies. What would you say to that? And how does Trump's agenda work into helping farmers?
Okay, I mean, look, it's a choice between hamburger and soy burger, or not even soy burger. They want to like chemical. That would help farmers. Soy burgers. It's like they want to do like genetically engineered chemical food. It's like it's just a choice. Look, no one has been more pro farmer than Donald Trump, and the farmers know it. I mean, he just landslide in Iowa last time around. The time before that, he had a strong vote. These people are just. Look, everything that the radical left does makes it harder for farmers, ranchers, small businessmen, and women to prosper. It's more regulation, higher energy costs. And there it is. So, again, if you look at the Trump policy agenda, stupid, again, you choose. You want high taxes, Harris. You want low taxes, Donald Trump. You want a lot of regulatory burden on you? Harris, lower regulatory burden, Trump. So on all of these dimensions, New MAGA Deal, newmagadeal.com, you can see it. You go on all the issues that matter. Economy, inflation at the top with border. You got foreign policy. You got law and order. You got the weaponization of the justice system. You got all these woke issues. Tax burden, regulatory burden. How is it that this race should not be close? Trump should be winning in a landslide, but the problem you have is he's not running against the Democrats. I mean, they're trying to turn Karl Marx, Kamala, I don't know, into Winston Churchill or JFK with this Camelot crap. It's like, it's just
on top of a coconut.
That's why we have to fight hard.
That meant.
Yeah.
What did the coconut mean? Why was you sitting on a coconut?
Hey, tell me quick about Tim Walz there.
I think he's the most extreme. He's a really good BSer. You're going to have to deal with the BSing ability, but he doesn't say anything. And people, he is folksy. People are going to respond to the BS stuff, and so he's going to come across as good in the media. But he's extreme. His policies are the most extreme in the country. I did a conference presentation and many interviews on the extreme last year, warning people that this is coming to a country and that what's happening in Minnesota is a test place for what they want to do everywhere. And next thing you know, he's VP candidate today. And I'm telling you, this is coming. This is what they want to do. And if you want to look at the legislation in Minnesota, it is extreme on every issue you can imagine. I mean, the abortion itself, and I have a hard time. I'm more of a pro-choice kind of thing, not because I like abortion, because there's two competing ideals that I struggle with, the right for control your own body, and then the right for this little one to have a life. I would never have my own abortion. But in this state, it's so extreme. It's the most extreme in the world. And it's not aligned with the people.
You mean basically up to birth, right?
Up to birth, but not only that, they want to make it legal after birth, but up to birth, they eliminated the resources for poor women. While they changed that, they eliminated the resources for poor women to have access to funding to help them get through it. They eliminated the need for doctors to do the surgery. They no longer track it anymore. I mean, it's extreme. And it doesn't align with the American people on the left either.
Yeah.
And people need to know
this afterbirth thing. What does that mean? Is if the baby is what? Why would they kill a baby after it's born?
I struggled with trying to understand what would be remotely the reason. And I guess, if you taking a step back, trying to see how could they even argue this? And I think it's if the baby's born and there's some kind of botched thing they can do it. But it also allows them, if they don't want the baby, a baby can be eliminated within the first 28 days, the legislation that went through, and nobody can do anything about it, even if the baby's viable.
Days, is that right? And
that's what they're trying to do.
Bill?
Well, that's what they were trying to do. There was 5 states that were trying to do that a couple years ago. And our state they would do it if they could.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just so extreme, but that's just one area. I mean, we're a sanctuary state for transgender. And so they're doing a lot of just extreme things that the average person, if they understood the legislation that was actually going through, I'm sorry, I lost my camera here. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
If they actually understood the legislation that was going through, they would not, the Democrats, most of the Democrats would not support it.
Let's do this. I've got to run now. Let's do this again. My book is New Mega Deal. It's at newmegadeal.com, newmegadeal.com. It's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Please, if you're watching this, take a look. It's really, we've got to win with the policy agenda. It's the Trump policy agenda, stupid. And that book, New Mega Deal, is where you can find it. And it's been enjoyable talking with you and getting some boots on the ground about Minneapolis.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'd like to talk to you more. And thank you so much for giving me all this extra time. Have an amazing day and keep fighting.
All right. You take care. Thank you.
Yeah, bye-bye.